So follow up on the Into the Pit game, it does appear that the game may in actual fact not be an in-universe game, but is in actual fact giving lore to us, the actual players. As we can see, we know within the FNAF universe that when someone dies, their spirit can become trapped in a loop, and so it is believed that Oswald in fact died and is reliving the events of Into the Pit over and over again, which makes sense as the events of the game are in no way the same as the events we see in the book. They do not line up at all. Plus, we get the interactive novel coming later this year, which may imply to us that events can be redone, implying that they are indeed in a loop. And this would explain to us the many Easter eggs within the game relating to the Fazbear Frights books. We see that the events in the game appear to overlap in the past and present, they affect each other. We have such things as being able to phone the future from the past, which would not be physically possible. And certain Easter eggs like GGY being mentioned and the Helpules arcade game show us that this cannot exist in 1985 because Helpy did not, as far as we are aware, actually exist at that point in the timeline. So I do believe that the theories that are put out there which state that whatever happens in the real world affects the remnant realm does in fact make sense. So we are viewing Oswald trapped in a loop at the end of the timeline as we know it. He's been trapped here for years. And so the multiple endings begin to make sense. There's one where you can leave the site in the past and then that's the end. So if Oswald isn't in actual fact time travelling, then this implies that he is stuck in the loop and at some points he could choose to just not be involved as part of the loop. And so as far as the other endings are concerned, Oswald did get caught by the pit trap entity, explaining the endings where he in fact dies, most particularly the one where he begins to lose his memory as a spirit, because that is what happens to the characters when they become ghosts. And finally, we can infer that the good ending does eventually come to pass at some point, as the Stitch Wraith ending in Fazbear Frights pointed to the fact that Jake would go into the ball pit and provide happiest days to all of the victims of Eleanor. And this does appear to be what the ending of Into the Pit is. It is Oswald's version of the happiest day. Now, we have also seen the release of the week before, and it reveals to us quite a few details about things in the timeline. It is inferred that Foxy may have actually been the cause of the bite of 87, as there are staff rumours that circulate around the bite, which are stopped by Phone Guy, whose actual name we find is Ralph, and it is implied that Foxy never bit any kids. However, the way this is worded makes it seem that he has bit adults. We find out that the FNAF 1 site has only recently been reopened as far as FNAF 1 is concerned, although how recent is never actually speculated to us. And we find that Ralph has been the 22-time Employee of the Month and has a daughter named Copelia who is 11 years old. It is also noted that teens and college students would attempt to break into Freddy's periodically in order to steal souvenirs, as the place has a reputation that encourages thrill seekers, and this may explain why the wrecked suits that we see when Afton breaks in are not destroyed, they just get rebuilt by the staff the next day. We also find that the FNAF 1 site is not accurate to what it is in the games, which implies to us that either, as the games are in universe, they are not perfect representations of the floor plans, as the backstage is actually behind the party room in the main hall, similar to what it is in Into the Pit, because it is implied that the FNAF 1 site is in actual fact the original site. And Ralph explains to us that multiple renovations and abandoned areas exist in the site, so they keep changing the layout to confuse the animatronics. We also learned that a reporter called Bronwyn tries to contact Ralph during his week at Freddy's and is taken out by the suits. Ralph even cleans up the evidence of this attack at one point during the book. However, we learn that this does not actually lead to them meeting in the actual timeline, as we know Phone Guy gets got by the suits. However, we do learn from the context clues of the different potential endings, the suits are attempting to escape by altering their charging platforms in order to leave the site for longer periods of time. And Bronwyn was attempting to get Ralph to aid in preventing this. However, it appears based on available evidence that this job later fell to Mike, explaining why he was fired for tampering with the animatronics. And finally, this game would give us the final nail in the coffin that the bite of 83 did in actual fact occur in the timeline known as the Big Bite. As far as I've been concerned so far, there has never been any exact reference to it. This is the first time it's actually been specifically mentioned in canon.